Hey everyone, Brandon here with Galloway Precision. Today we're going to go over the installation of our newest trigger offering for the Sky CPX3, CPX4 series of pistols, and that is the Goliath short stroke trigger and trigger kit. Alright, so what we changed on the Goliath is we've added in the pre and post travel stops and done away with the screws, so you don't have to make any adjustments. You install it and you're ready to go. So tools you're going to need your bench block, you're going to need a straight pick, you're going to need your shepherd's hook pick, 3/32 punch, a T6 by 50 Torx wrench, and a brass and polymer hammer. Now, the only difference between this and the CPX 3 will be that the 3 won't have the safety, so you won't need your T6. Pardon me. Alright, so let's go ahead and lock and clear. We are visually and physically empty, so we can go ahead and strip the slide. Take that off, set it off to the side. We're going to take our bench block, flip it upside down. Now, they have recently changed the pins on these, we've been finding, so these are actually going to drive out from right to left, and they've been blue Loctiting them in. We're not going to reapply blue Loctite because it's such a tight fit, you're going to have a hard time getting them out and in anyway. But it's going to take some beating, I'm not going to lie to you. Get a couple good hard wraps ought to get it unstuck, but you'll be able to see the Loctite. So if you want, when you put it back together, just put a little dab of blue Loctite. Once you get it back together on that side, let it dry. Like I said, we're not going to, just because it's very tight. You can hear how hard it is to get the pin punch back out. So they've tightened up those holes quite a bit, which is a good thing. That's never a bad thing. Alright. Tighter frame always lends to accuracy. So we're going to knock out our other front pin here. Alright, now we're going to take our hook pick, we're going to grab the hammer spring seat and undo it. Alright, now, because that whole piece will come out with the safety still attached, we can pull everything out, set our frame off to the side. Now, since I have the whole frame out, and this will go the same for the CPX 1 and 2 and the Goliath is ready for it. You can see this detent right here. Okay, that little brass detent, that's your safety detent. Alright, so when you're taking this apart, be very cognizant of that thing there. That may pop out while you're doing that, no big deal. We'll put it back later. That's your slide lock, and we'll show you how. So go ahead and take out this Torx screw and get this side of the safety off. Alrighty. I'm going to pull up on that, and we're just going to grab the brass detent and spring, leaving them together, and we're just going to set them off to the side so when we start flipping stuff around, we don't lose it. Alright, now with that, now that that's all loose, we can go ahead and take the trigger bar off. We can pull the safety out. Alright, which you're going to have to get everything kind of lined up to where it'll let you pull it out. So you can pull the safety out, push your hammer back up the way it is. Now you notice your hammer's loose. So all we got to do is push out this pin. This one's in tight, which normally you can do it by hand, but you may need to help it out a little bit. Alright. And you don't need to take that pin all the way out, just enough to unhook the hammer spring. And now we can go ahead and push out our hammer pin. You pull the safety and you notice that the detent for the safety sits inside the hammer pins. Just push that out, pull that straight out. Now, what's the straight pick for, you're asking? Tired of hearing about it in the last video, so I'm going to show you how to put your felt in your hammer spring that there is absolutely no need for. All that does is make it not go twang twang, and people kept going, oh, the twang, because, you know, you're going to hear that while you're defending yourself, but that's neither here nor there. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to remove the felt from your stock spring and put it in your new one, because that's the only thing that deadens the sound. Alright, so take, and you can see the felt right here. So if you start taking your straight pick, get up in here on the end that doesn't have the hammer. Once you get a good start, it'll come on out, and you may need to use your hook as well. But this is why your stock one doesn't go twang twang. That's it. There's nothing spectacular, there's nothing special about the spring. That's it, just the felt. So then you can take the felt, put it in the bottom of this one, take our straight pick and start pushing it in. So those of you that end up wanting to do this on your own, you get to this part, you're going to be like, wow, I see why they don't stuff every single spring with felt. Imagine how much it sucks being the person at Sky that's your job, is just stuffing these springs all day. It can't be fun. Alright, so we got our felt, and our spring that we threw in the floor. Alright, so we've got our felt in, so now what we can do is we're going to go ahead and make sure that our trigger return spring is up out of its little cavity there, so that we can push out the pivot, and it's probably going to be pretty tight being that it's plastic. They usually force them in so you get a nice tight grab on the trigger. So alright, so we have us a nice teachable moment here. Got my calipers handy. I get a lot of emails. I answer all the tech emails, as a matter of fact, and a lot of you have less than pleasant things to say to me, usually when you don't like my answers. But something happened while I was videoing. I stopped the video because the trigger pivot would not fit the Goliath. And I'm thinking to myself, now I just installed this in the gun that we took the pictures with, and it worked perfectly fine, went in fine. Maybe it's the anodizing, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So I took that other pistol apart and took its pivot. Slides right in. This one does not. So, what does that mean? Well, it's not the part, because we machine everything to plus minus 2/1000 of an inch. Alright, so this customer's pivot, we're going to measure the 4 flats. That's where it binds up all the time. Alright, so we got about 226 thousandths of an inch. Alright, next flat, same thing, 226 thousandths of an inch. Other customer's pivot, almost 220, about 221-ish thousandths, about 221-ish thousandths. So half a width of a human hair difference in between the two. I have not fit this trigger, I've done nothing to the trigger but put the other pivot in it where it stopped. That's it. This pivot's not been prepped, none of that's been done. This isn't movie magic, I don't have that kind of budget. That's not how this goes. So what we're going to do is, to finish up this video, we'll use this pivot, and we'll do a separate video on how to properly fit your CPX pivot if you have an issue. Alright, so let's pick up where we left off. Our slide lock had fallen off, so we're going to put it down in that hole up under the spring. Take your Goliath trigger, put it in place, put your pivot on in there. Alright, now we're going to take our hammer, we're going to slide it spring first with the flat to the rear, curve to the front. That's the way these hammers work. Oh, we don't want that hammer. That's the wrong hammer. That's the stock hammer. We want this hammer. I got all excited to be able to actually show people what I'm talking about in emails and got distracted. Alright, so then we're going to take our hammer pivot slash safety detent. Make sure that you line up your holes. Push your hammer pivot through. Give it a little tap with the polymer. Now we're ready. Now we're ready to put our trigger bar back in place, and that's why I love the CPX 3 and 4 trigger bar setup, because instead of trying to spring it like the 1 and 2, I put a nice little opening there, a little pocket for the trigger return spring. We just slide that on in there. Take our safety, start on the trigger bar side, work our way into it. Alright, we'll take, now what I like to do is that right there. Alright, that holds the trigger bar. That's the way the safety sits. So once you get it to where you want it, you flip the safety to the rear the way it's supposed to sit. We can go ahead and get our roll pin started on the hammer seat. What I like to do, I went a little too far. What I generally like to do is get it pushed back just enough to where the spring can be put in it with the round of the hammer spring seat to the rear, so it matches the frame when you put it all back together. Okay. I like to take it and just mash it down on the bench block and get that pin in there. And then we'll just set our chassis off to the side for a second. We'll take our 3/32 and we'll just tap to where the roll pin is flush. Alright, now we're ready to put it back in the grip frame. So we're going to come at a 90-degree angle so that we don't get the hammer spring seat stuck in anything, and then we'll turn and we'll seat the chassis. Go ahead and take your shepherd's crook pick and seat the hammer spring seat so that everything's tensioned. We'll go ahead and drive, remember, putting the Loctite side to the right, we'll drive our frame pins back in, get them started with your brass, and finish them with a punch. Alright. Now remember, we're going, it's Brandon's favorite word on frame pins, equidistant. Alright, don't want them sticking out too far on one side or the other. The reason for that being, makes it really uncomfortable to shoot. And the great thing about the 3 and 4, one of the things they did to the frame is you can actually look at it and see there's a tiny little inlay where the pins go. So once you get that lined up on both sides, aesthetically it's pleasing, but it also gives you a nice reference point. So now we're going to take our safety detent and spring, go ahead and put it in the hammer pivot. Take our safety, put it on. Alright, and it should be in the down position. And the safety pin itself is keyed, so it will key properly. Just make sure you don't put it on in the wrong way, because it'll go on. I know it will, because I've done it and then been like, why didn't it sew? I'm an idiot. So just like that, it should sit. Detent that little cutout on the safety, and take our T6 and just put the screw back. And you don't need to torque this thing. You just get it snug and hand tight to where the safety operates smoothly. It's a little too tight, so we'll loosen it a bit. That's why they made the screw so long, because that ain't going anywhere. Alright, so now we'll put our slide back on. Take your pistol and hold it up in a perpendicular way. Rack the slide and lock it back, and that'll drop the barrel to where you need it to line up your barrel lug to put in your takedown. Alright, we're going to do a functions test. Place it on safe. Nothing happens. Rack it, reset, pull. See? Twang. No twang, because I put the felt in there, so that's all you guys got to do. Reset, pull. Safety on, nothing happens. Safety off, pull, hold, rack, reset, pull. And there you go, guys. That's the Goliath, and it's already pre-done. Pre and post travel stops are set up, so once you get it in, it's ready to go. So there you have it, guys. That is the Goliath for the CPX 3 and 4. Had us a nice little learning experience about mass-produced parts in the middle of it. Hope you enjoyed that part. Obviously, the next thing we're going to do is a video on how to properly fit your pivot if you have issues with your Goliath trigger. Because as we showed, 2 separate pivots, 2 separate measurements. And while 5/1000 7-inch, that's less than half the width of a human hair, doesn't seem like much inside a pistol, it can cause a lot of issues. So we'll go over that in the next video. But that's going to wrap it up for this one, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me at tech, that's Tango Echo Charlie Hotel, at gallowayprecision.com. Be sure to follow us here on social media, on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe below. Be sure to go down into the description and follow the links for Firearms Friendly, Full 30, Gunstreamer, Facebook, Instagram, and Vimeo. And as always, be safe, be accurate, and God bless.